Soy.
Welcome, everyone, to this night's Midnight Ranting on Missing 411, where we talk about a set of mysterious disappearances. So, won't you join James W. and myself for a deep dive? Well, hello there, James. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Amy?
I'm doing pretty good. I watched your debate tonight with T Jump. I thought it was pretty exciting.
Well, thank you. I thought it was a good debate. T Jump is a very good debater. He is a very experienced debater. I knew going in with a debate against Tom Jump that it wasn't going to be easy because he is he's very rigid, very methodical in how he approaches things. He approaches everything from a philosophical position, and he's well versed in the use of logic and things like that. So I knew it was going to be challenging, and I wasn't really sure how to approach the debate. I didn't really, because I mean, you could just start going through case by case and get into the individual minutia of each case, but I decided not to go that way. Maybe I should have, but who knows how it would have, if it would have been better that way. But I just tried to go on there and make my case that there's seemed to be some unusual things happening in these cases, and the natural explanation seems elusive, and we have to be at least willing to consider that there could be something else going on. I mean, obviously, if we could prove it, we wouldn't have to sit and debate about it, but I do try to keep an open mind and be open to considering things that are outside of the regular paradigm, things that make a lot of people uncomfortable. And I mean, we can get into some of what those things possibly could be, but I mean, at that point, you're just it's just conjecture, it's just speculation, But where we begin is the disappearances, the questionable disappearances, and the things that don't seem to fit. And I didn't think he would just say, "Oh, maybe all the data is wrong." I mean, going into something like that, I think you just have to kind of take the data for what it's worth and assume that it's work with it, assuming it's correct, and then you can go back later and you can do research on a case and see if you think a data point is wrong. But you could spend a whole hour just bickering about whether the reporting is accurate. But David Polides, he does go through in his book, and he lays out his sources and where he gets his information for each of the cases. And I mean, if you just want to say that, oh, well, maybe that's wrong. Well, I mean, not really, you can't really go too far with that. But yeah, so anyone else wants to come in and share their thoughts, go for it.
Yep. In fact, I'm going to send the link into chat if anyone wants to join us. And yeah, I thought it was a good debate. This is really my first time coming across the topic. I looked it up this weekend, and I started watching the documentary, and so I guess I'm coming into this almost like an audience interlocutor.
Right. And you come at, I don't think you're quite as militant of a skeptic as Tom Jump, but you do sway more towards that hard line skeptic position. It's very hard to convince you that anything outside the normal paradigm that we can see and interact with is happening.
I would guiltily probably agree with that assessment. Don't hate me, James.
No, I don't hate you. I don't
I am.
know. Yeah, there is definitely a place for healthy skepticism. It's just depends on the level you take it to.
Exactly. And I think maybe this is me patting myself on the back. I feel like our conversation helped after the podcast yesterday, because my main concern is that I believe the I'll say the majority or many of the families that are saying that the people are going missing. Like I don't want to go out of my way and give like a Bigfoot equivalent because clearly there are people there have been hurt. You know, they went on camping trips and now their kid is missing. And so you can't just say their kid's not missing. My biggest pushback will always be on the paranormal stuff. And I know you're not pushing the paranormal stuff. And so the people that I would even disagree with may not even be here.
Right. I mean, to tell you, I'm not proposing a hardline explanation one way or another because at that point, you're just speculating. I mean, you can look online, you can look in books, videos, you will see tons of strange reports of things happening in the woods. And, you can take it for what it's worth. There's not a lot of hard evidence, though. And, most people don't really regard anecdotal reports or one off statements as very reliable. So it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that it's very hard to convince people just based on that. So, I mean, but there are reports of, beings in the woods with predator-like camouflage. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it, but it's just what people are saying. And maybe people are just watching the movies and they're getting they're looking at things and their imaginations are going wild. That is possible, but you don't know. It's interesting to me, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that was the other question is I wanted to know how did you become familiar with this subject?
I first heard about this maybe uh it was actually, of all places, it was in an Uber car like 3 years ago, and the guy was playing Coast to Coast AM. It was late at night, and I know George Norrie's voice because I've heard some of his broadcasts before, and he had David Paulides on, and I only caught a little bit of it there in the car, just like a 15-20 minute ride, but later on, I got to look into it a little bit more, and I've watched the movies, looked at some of his materials, and yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't really know everything about it, but I definitely think it's interesting.
Yeah, so did you send James to the topic? If I may
Yeah,
ask, the other James?
yeah, it was what was it? It was last month when we had our Patreon meeting, and he was looking for like kind of because he said the politics thing after the election that's kind of worn out, and he was looking for new subjects, and he likes he thought things like the paranormal or things of that nature might be a good thing. So I mentioned it, and then he was looking for someone to defend it. He was looking for a few days, and I said, I really think it's a tough sell to get people to go on and make a case for something like that when we don't have perfect evidence and when it is just so easy to just sit off to the side and hand wave away and dismiss anything as insufficient evidence, anecdotal evidence. That's very easy to do, but it's very hard to try and make a case for something when you don't have perfect evidence, perfect information. So I told him I would do it.
And I think you're at least an interesting defender because you're coming at least from a naturalistic perspective. I saw a lot of defenders in the chat, interestingly enough, that I thought were theistically. And so I coming at it from a natural origin, at least in my biased opinion, is always going to be a better starting point.
Right,
And
right.
looks like you have. Looks like Tony was a fan here of you.
Yeah, and he jumped in right at the end because I guess Jim Majors had something come up. He couldn't do the debate, so he only had a few days to prep. But I mean, T Jump, he is where he comes from philosophically and how he approaches things. He's just never convinced by anything. He'll just hand wave away, and he's not going to accept anything that's not absolute ironclad proof, like a video of somebody being abducted by something that is clearly not a regular animal. Anything short of that, he's really not going to accept it. And I knew that going into it, but he was at least charitable. I don't think he was at least
Yeah.
charitable with me.
I don't think it was a dumpster fire.
No, not at all. Yeah. So when I say I'm coming from naturalistically, not from a theistic origin, I mean the the theists they've made claims from as long as there have been theists about different beings, angels, demons, deities, and all sorts of things like that. And whether there's any grain of truth to it that they're tapping into something that's beyond the pale, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't call it angels or demons or deities. I would just say that it's possible that there could be other forms of life that exist on a different plane than we do. Um, that we just did not evolve to be able to interact with or comprehend. And if they were to interact with us in our reality, it would be very difficult for us to perceive them. Um, I don't know that that's true. I'm just coming at it from trying to make sense of the things that we're seeing. And if you look into a lot of these reports, I mean, some of them are very, very bizarre. Um, like the one case where the boy went missing. He went behind a tree and he just ducked behind the tree playing hide and go seek with a bunch of kids. And the boy's father is out there watching him go behind a tree. And then all the kids come out a minute later and goes back behind the tree, and his son's not there, 3.5-year-old son. And they never found anything of that kid. And when David Paulides, when he was looking through the investigation reports, he found deep in there buried a report that had been made by a family who was camping not too far from that area, and they stated around a similar time to that kid going missing that they saw what looked like a bear carrying a child over its shoulders, but they said it wasn't moving like a bear, and it didn't really look like a bear either. They called it a bear man. And I mean, bears don't run carrying things over their shoulder like that. That's not possible. Running on three legs with something slung over their shoulder, that's just not something bears do. So did they missee what they saw, or we don't know. It's just interesting. I just find it interesting to ponder the possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I find this kind of stuff interesting. I found most of the comments, it's so irreverent, but most of the comments in the YouTube video, which I'm going to advertise for free for no reason. But if you would like to
Check out Modern Day Debate. Yeah, it's a great
we'll,
channel.
I'll give out two. Check out both the debate at Modern Day Debate with the awesome James running an amazing debate channel over there. And then if you want to know about the subject that we're talking about, there are, I believe, I've made it through almost the first. I think there are two documentary YouTube videos on YouTube, or documentaries on YouTube.
So the first one is Missing 411, and that's actually focus. Hey, Stripper Liquor, good to see you, man. And that one focuses mainly on kids going missing. The most of those cases in that one were kids. And then he did another one called The Hunted, and that is where he's just focusing on woodsmen and hunters who go in the woods and go missing. And the thing with woodsmen and hunters is, they're typically familiar with the woods and they're typically armed. They've got some type of weapon with them to be hunting with. So it just, I mean, could something still happen? Yeah, it's just more less likely, I guess, when I don't know anybody who goes out hunting into bear country, even if you're hunting for deer, even if you just got a 30-30 or a 270, you make sure you carry something capable of taking down a bear, a 44 Magnum, a 10 millimeter, or a 308. You carry something in case a bear comes out at you, because your 30-30 is not going to be enough to stop a bear in one shot.
And yeah, that was
spend much time hunting,
Amy? I have never actually went hunted. I've never went hunting. I have shot a gun once and I'm very open to going hunting. So I'd love to in the future.
Oh, okay.
I I will say one of the points, and so I'm just trying to be devil's advocate to myself here. One
Absolutely.
of the points that they were talking about was that there weren't any animal traces, or there wasn't blood, or that it seemed to be like either they were eaten whole, or they've gone, or they've just gone missing, or something. But they didn't leave many tracks. I think that was one of the things they
And
were
yeah,
saying.
and that's the thing. I mean, you can pull up videos of bear attacks and attacks from animals in the wild. They're messy, they're loud, they're very it's not something that happens without leaving a trace. There's blood, there's noises, struggling. The bear's not trying to be a ninja assassin. He's either trying to defend himself, or if he's a man eater, he's looking for a meal.
Excuse me. You don't know that bear's not a ninja assassin, nor do you know what kind of training that he went through to get the belt that he deserved.
So have you seen any bears at your jujitsu classes?
I have not. I will
Not
tell
yet.
you though, because like many things in my brain that are flipped backwards, if I see a bear, I will die. Because to me, they're just like giant doggies, and I will just want to absolutely hug that thing, and then it will probably want to do the same, but with a meal. So
Now, because you're Amy Newman, I think we need to make it clear that when I'm talking about bears, I'm talking about the animal kind of bears. Just
hey,
so, just so we're all on the same page. If
I'm
there was
sure I
human
kink
type bear,
shaming.
then yeah, maybe they could have ninja training and whatnot, and swoop out from a tree and take somebody silently. But that's not how animal bears operate.
I want you to know, James, you're not very punny.
Well, thank you. I'm not trying to be punny, Amy.
Ugh,
But yeah,
yeah,
and
I
that's
should
that's
have
the
like a
thing.
dun 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 in the background.
I mean, there's all sorts of things, and like when I was looking through this, there's a lot of cases he includes where a person was going out on their own in a park, and I strayed away from those because I like the cases where they're with somebody, because these parks are huge, right? So millions of acres, some of them. So if you just try to find one person there, that's like looking for a needle in a haystack, unless you have a starting point. Now, if you have a starting point, that's quite different, because we know how fast people can move, and that they went missing right here within an hour. That gives you a good area to start searching, to bring the dogs in, to get the helicopters up there.
Yep. In fact, I guess that brings to another question is you told me, I think before the podcast, that he leaves it open. He's not
David
giving.
Polides.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
the. I guess he's really the main vessel of this. He's the one who directed the documentaries, and I think it's actually based off a book. Now that I'm
It's a series of books
thinking
he
about
wrote.
it,
Yeah, he's got
yeah.
like 5 of them out covering all these cases.
So, so
He
this
leaves
is
it open.
his thing, and so yeah. So my question was then, um, do you have? Are you offering hypotheses? Are you saying, are you here to deliver the message, just to bring
Well,
more awareness? Are you
I mean,
or
I'll speculate, but as long as it's clear that when I'm going from just saying what's happening to speculation, that's a different line of thought. It's not. I mean,
okay.
the people are going missing. That's factual, and the circumstances seem to be unusual. That's factual. Um, what, how exactly you explain that is more speculating.
Yep, and it looks like you got another defender.
Yeah, yeah. I
I should
like
probably
Tom. He's
read it
a
just
good
in case
debater.
people are listening. I like Tom. I
Oh yeah.
enjoy his approach overall. I'm thinking out loud. I think he wasn't the right interlocutor for this debate. I think someone more is that Conversational would have been better.
Yeah, Tom, he's very his position is he's just gonna sit there and you've got to convince him, and anything that's, insufficient, he's just gonna wipe to the side. And as opposed to he's not really gonna get too deep into the minutia or whatever, because he's just gonna hand wave it away. And I like Tom. He's a very good debater, but yeah, maybe that's why I think originally it wasn't going to be Tom, but he was kind of just who James had at the moment.
Yes, well, I think it was originally going to be Jim Majors, right? And something
Yes.
happened. And so Tom, that doesn't surprise me. I feel like he just likes debating, which I think we all have the bug here, so I can't shame him for that, right? The joke I was saying in chat was like, because it's two atheists fighting, this is what it feels like when your parents are fighting. Or what?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I don't know if David Polides is a theist or an atheist. I don't know. It really doesn't matter, because um, it's just about the facts, and where you go with it from there is speculation. Like, um, I mean, I know people who know me, who've listened to me on here. You know that I'm open to the possibility of aliens visiting Earth, and I'm not dogmatic about it. I'm not absolutely certain about it, but I do think that you can make a good case for that. And yeah, a lot of these cases, it does seem like people are being hunted almost. It does seem like something is able to enter these areas without being seen, and to take these people, you know, take them somewhere either really quick, or I don't know if they have invisibility cloaks. I mean, it's all sci-fi stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's just speculation, but it just seems like that something is able to very surreptitiously move through these woods without getting seen. And I don't really know of anything that we know of on Earth that operates that way. Um, there was another case. I forget the guy's name, and this was in Georgia, and this guy, he was part of a surveyor crew. It was a 4-man crew, and they were walking down a road in a really wooded area, and it was 4 of them, and they're walking about 40 to 50 feet spacing in between them. And so the last guy in line, so the number third guy, he turns around to look at for the guy behind him, and there's nobody there. And so they all stop, and they call out his name. They don't see him, and they all go back. They walk back. I don't know exactly how far it was, probably a few hundred feet back, and they look on the ground, and they see tools, and they see loose change, but they don't see the guy anywhere. So of course they call the authorities, and the authorities come out. They bring hundreds of people to search. They bring the dogs out, and they found next to this road there was a barbed wire fence adjacent to the road, and they found one of his shoes stuck to a piece of the barbed wire. And then they found the other shoe a few hundred yards away in like a swampy type area. And you're looking to yourself like, when you look at all this, what is it telling you? And the only logical thing that you have to arrive at the conclusion is that something came up to this guy, picked him up, and therefore the change in his pockets and the tools in his tool belt fell out and picked him up and took him over this fence. His shoe got caught on the barbed wire, but he's gone. I mean, and I I can't make heads or tails of that in the regular paradigm. There's nothing out there that should be able to pick up and carry a fully grown human away like that, and especially one that will not make any sound when you've got other people, within 20, 30, 40 feet away. It's just very, very bizarre.
And so I actually just want to tell the chat, if you guys have any questions for James, feel free to tag me and I'll bring them up. And because of that, with that on mind, I want to bring this up. Similar but not related. He's known. Keep on forgetting his name, but his other topic that he's known for is Bigfoot. Correct?
Who's that? David Polides? Yes,
Yes.
yes. That's how he got started in all this was excuse me one moment.
Yep.
Yeah, he started on that. He's got some books about that. And tell you the truth, I don't find the Bigfoot question as interesting as I do the 411 question. I mean, I'm open to the existence of a large North American hominid. It could be, but yeah, I haven't really spent a lot of time to research it. I mean, invisible Bigfoot, I think once you go to that level, I don't know of any creatures on Earth that have invisibility. So I think that once you get to that level, you would have to have something with some type of technology. And yeah, take that where you will. What that means, I don't know. It seems like would have to be a piece of technology. I can't imagine how a large North American hominid would evolve that ability, but yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly my kind of feelings towards Bigfoot. Is that I don't believe that a Bigfoot exists, but I'm not against it because I think it'd be friggin' cool.
I
If
mean,
that even makes sense. But I don't think it's real. I'm skeptical.
right.
But at the same time, I'm very open minded because why not?
And
Sure, bring it to us.
where I was trying to go was, uh, everybody knows there are new animals discovered every year. I mean, that's a valid thing. That's a real thing, So the idea that there could be an animal out there we haven't discovered yet, we know that. So the idea that one of these animals that we know exist might have taken humans in a forest is not really on the same par with leprechauns or Santa Claus or anything like that, which is where he wanted to kind of push the idea to the absurd range when it's really not that absurd. It's really, it's not quite to the Santa Claus level.
And I'm about to bring up another question, but I warn you, real Bob, there's so many NASA shills here. In fact, I think there may be two NASA shills
Are we
right in the
globetards?
StreamYard. Yeah.
Yeah,
But we
Amy's a
love
big
you,
shill.
real Bob. You can we
I mean,
yeah,
I don't
and you're
know.
also welcome to join us on here.
I don't know how
And
much they're
yeah,
paying Amy in shill money, but it must be more than me.
exactly. I'm getting. You should see all of the golden shekels that I get. It's specifically shekels because that's how the lizards pay me. But to go back on topic, you got someone coming for you.
I see it.
We have from Blaster Master. We have drones and stuff these days, and people with cameras on them at all times. Why don't we have any video footage at all of anything like James is describing?
Well, I mean, we do have video footage of people claiming to see unusual things in the woods. We do have footage of that. It's just whether you want to believe it's authentic or not. That's the only question. I mean, you could tell the flat earthers that we have pictures of the earth and they're just going to hand wave that away and say, well, that's CGI. They're not going to believe it. So, um, but the idea is like take a national park like that's 2 million acres wide big. What percentage of that park is under video surveillance in a day or a week or a year? Yeah, you're going to have huge swaths of that are not being filmed at all, just deep into the woods. And you obviously you would like to see some type of evidence like that. We don't have it yet. It doesn't mean there's nothing there. It just means we haven't seen it yet. You know.
Yep. And once again, I'm also sending the StreamYard if anyone would like to join us.
And it would
You.
be a matter of no. Go ahead.
Oh, no, no. You were
I was
about to
just going
say
to say
something.
it's just a matter of how many of these things are out there. I don't know. We don't even know what it is or, anything like that. We don't know how they move around. We don't know its true nature. We don't know how many of them. If it's just a couple and they have the ability to travel without being noticed, I mean, they could evade detection almost indefinitely. It's there's a concept in criminality, and they made a movie about it. It wasn't a great movie about it, but it explored the concept, and the concept is suspect zero. And the idea behind that is that if you were to be a killer and you were to leave no discernible pattern in what you do, if you were completely random, that you could evade detection almost indefinitely, because there would be no dots to connect. There would be no path to follow. And that's how we solve things like this. So if, let's just say something crazy. If there's an alien race out there selling hunting tickets to Earth to come down here and hunt the humans, and they only do it maybe 5 or 6 times a year, they could go into any of these parks and take somebody, and it would always be more plausible that it would be something natural that happened to them, as opposed to something crazy like aliens coming down and hunting humans for sport. But it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's just very
So it
unlikely,
could be. Are you telling me there could be an alien version of Don Jr.? I'm just kidding.
Or what was that movie about the hunting the conservative people that came out like a year ago?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they got a bunch of Trump supporters and put them in like like an enclosure, and went in and hunted them. But yeah, it was a flop, I think. Yeah, I want to be invisible too. That would be nice. But yeah, it could be aliens hunting. And well, that's the thing, is the unusual thing about this is usually you would think if you were going to have people lost in the woods, it would be children or an adult. Who do you think would be more likely to survive? Would probably be the adult. But actually, like when we see people surviving this, it's actually usually the child. And maybe that tells you that if whatever's taking them has some sense of morality, and there's no some sense of sport, and there's really no sport in taking and killing a defenseless little child.
Last message lived in Yellowstone. Ranger always knew where the wolves were and would tell me so I could track them down and see them. If they can do that with a small pack of wolves, eh?
Well, I don't know. I mean, wolf packs are they're part of the natural flora that and fauna that we're well aware of. We know what they are. We know how they act. We know what kind of noises they make. So what we would probably be dealing with would be something entirely different. Well, yeah, like in Predator, the predator wouldn't kill anybody who was unarmed. So the kids, yeah, there's no sport in killing a little child, but they seem to be doing okay. It was one of the more unusual cases, I think, was in I think that's in Oregon or Washington State. And it was a family, and they were sitting at a campfire, and the child was, I believe, 4 years old. And they're all sitting at the campfire, and everybody looks away from the child for just a second, and they look over. The child's gone, right? They're all, yeah, gone. And the mother's, the father, the sister, like, hey, did you see where your brother went? No. Yeah, no. So they get up, they start looking for the kid. Of course, they don't find anything. And so, of course, they call the park rangers, and they send people out looking. And it's about 20 hours later, through a trail, and I mentioned this case to T-Jump, right off to the side of the trail in a thicket, they find this kid unconscious but alive. And yeah, they didn't really at the time get into what they were just so happy that he was alive and that they got him back. But when they asked this child what had happened, he was giving very incoherent answers. And it was about, I think, a month later when he was with his grandmother, and he made a comment to her that and he called his grandmother Cappy. That was just his name. And he said, I like you a lot more than the other Cappy. And they're like, what are you talking about, the other Cappy? So he's like, yeah, when we were out camping, he says, there was another Cappy, and she told me to go with her. And I went with her, and then we went into a cave where there were spiders and women's purses, and she kept asking me a bunch of questions. I didn't understand what she was asking, and then she got mad at me and told me to leave the cave. And then that's when he got found. And I mean, kids do say strange things, but an event like this, that it would be so traumatic and terrifying, I can't imagine a child making something like that up. It's just very bizarre. And then the grandmother, she said that actually at that same park, about a year and a half prior, she had had a strange incident herself where her and a friend, she was sleeping in a tent. The friend had a camper out there, and they had a campfire going, and they kept seeing like eyes in the darkness looking at them, and they would shine the light on it, and it would always move. It would always be gone, and they would move the flashlight around and it would be somewhere else a minute later. Then they would move the light over there, it would disappear. So they were getting kind of freaked out, but I mean, they're like, hey, there's animals out there, whatever, who knows what it is, but let's keep a level head. It's got to be something rational. And yeah, so they go to bed, and the lady, she goes to bed in a tent. Her friend is in a camper home, and they both wake up outside. The guy's outside the camper, she's outside of the tent. They're both on their faces in the dirt, and they've got cuts on the back of their neck, and neither of them remembered anything about that, what that happened, and they had no explanation for how they got out of where they were sleeping and got that injury. It's just very bizarre. And I mean, it's anecdotal in that we don't have video evidence of it, but it's just very, the only thing you can say is just very bizarre. It doesn't fit well within our paradigm of reality.
Trying to think, were there any interesting questions from the Q&A?
Nah, there was only a
Do you
few
remember?
questions. Yeah, there's a few. One of them was Smokey. He was bantering about his soy fixation, and because he still hasn't paid his soy bill, and because he doesn't have the money. They stopped his streaming, unfortunately, and
I think he's
yeah,
back up today
he's
for the
he's
first
been
time.
streaming on Twitch, but I don't know if he's
Oh,
back on YouTube yet. Yeah, he's been on Twitch, but and that let me just say that I think that's wrong. I mean, I disagree with a lot of what Smokey says, and everything like that, but I'm not down with the cancel culture, censorship, stuff like that. Smokey, he does say a lot of crazy stuff, but he makes an ass out of himself enough. Let people at least just hear what he has to say.
well, going back into my wires are kind of twisted in the opposite directions. I kind of, I kind of love all of them. Like, I can't, I can't even imagine myself hating like Smokey and Praise and Maddox. Even the people who I imagine really do detest me, like Batman,
Right,
Mr.
right.
Batman. Like, I can't hate them. Like, I can't even.
We're trying to help. Help me, help you, John Maddox. Help me, help you, Smokey Saint. That we're just trying to help. We're just trying to plant seeds of doubt, and then they will grow on their own. They will germinate.
I am just trying to lightly poke at Yahweh, not to go into religion too deep,
Right.
but I'll tell you, if I could take digs at religion in every podcast that I can, I would. So,
But we don't hate theists. We don't go to that level.
no,
We
well,
love
it takes me back.
theists.
Exactly. Not only I honestly, if I were to ever meet any of them in real life, I would have a beer or fat. Not I would say fast food, but I would even pay money to get expensive fried food, and we could talk theology. No, I love all of them. I don't know if it's the DMT, though it might be, because I feel like that's why Joe Rogan is the way he is. Um,
Yeah,
and
you
if
could have
any
a
of the
beer, and
DMT are
John
that
Maddox could have a appletini
exactly,
or a
oh, it'd be
Cosmo.
fantastic.
Get
Or I'll
Smokey
have
Saint
both.
a Cosmo. Yeah,
Exactly, and and eventually maybe we'll have some in-person debates after all this
that would be nice.
craziness.
Apparently, T Jump is
Yeah.
going to Georgia for a debate. I didn't know that was
I
coming
know
up.
that
How
sounds exciting.
they're going to have to get a trailer to move that chair down there because that's what everyone's paying to see.
Well, the chat also decided collectively in this debate that it seems that T Jump's chair is hunting people down and killing them. So I basically have declared his chair kind of like a Dexter analogous. It's all starting to make sense.
I mean, from a Christian perspective, that chair would have to be so demonically haunted because of the person who sits in it that theoretically, yeah, at night it probably does go out and just hunt people, sacrifice babies and stuff, whatever demons would do with a
That is
chair.
what atheists do. And it is his chair, so we put 1 to 1, and it's like opposite God. There we go. I think we're solving problems left and right tonight. See?
Absolutely, but yeah, then a lot of these cases, yeah, they take place next to water, and these rivers and these lakes, they're searched extensively with divers and with oh yeah, exactly, yeah. But these bodies of water are searched. The authorities know about that. They know how bodies go, and it's very hard to dispose of a body. Actually, is kind of a lot harder than you think of it. It would be.
And I have another question from Stricker Liquor, Stripper Liquor.
Where's SJ?
Yeah.
Is all
Question is all I look at it and then I imagine people are just reading it. I'm gonna get used to this. Question: is all of this found in books by just one author?
well, the Missing 411 series is by one author. Now, that's just him and his research. There are other people who have written books about strange things in the woods and about disappearances and things like that. So the general concept, no, there's other people covering it, but yeah, it's about David Paulides because he's not proposing an explanation. So a lot of people, the other people who write their piece on it, they tend to, take more of a slant on it, whether they're trying to say it's aliens or some type of spirit beings that are native to the earth that we just can't see. They all each individual have their own individual theories that they're trying to push or these propose. But Paulides, he just kind of like, this is the data, make of it what you will, but these are the cases.
Is there? I know there's two sides, as in like a natural and a supernatural, or let's say a paranormal and a not paranormal. Is there a theological camp? Is there even a position the theists are trying to take on this?
Now, if I were a theist, to come at this from a theistic perspective, so they the theists that are open to, and when I say that, I'm talking Christians mainly, but they're open to the possibility of aliens, but they think that they're demons or fallen angels doing the work of Satan, doing his bidding or whatnot. So um, if you look into a lot of those cases, what they're trying to push is that the demons are trying to to tamper with human genetics, trying to, you know, do some whatever they're trying to do with human genetics to thwart God's plan or do something to piss God off or whatever before he sends them to hell. So they would probably say along those lines that this would have something to do with that. They're just taking people to use their genetic information or do something to make God mad, maybe human sacrifices. I don't know, but yeah.
So I'll reinterpret this, but I'll bring up something Bob said. Would you consider him an expert? Do you know what his expertise is? And are there other experts trying, or are they still
The
looking and
real
verifying?
Bob Lazar. So Bob Lazar. So that is a guy, the guy whose name it is, who came
Hmm.
out in the 1980s, late 80s, and he said that he worked at Area 51, and that he claimed that he went into one of the alien craft that they have uh, found, and that he was part of a team trying to reverse engineer it. And he actually came out and told people like what his view on how these craft work is, which actually very unusual, because a lot of times people come out and they really don't get into details, because when you get into details, that's stuff that can be fact checked and proven wrong. So when people come out and just make broad claims like that, they try to be as vague as possible. But he actually goes into some detail about how he proposes that these craft run. And I mean, I can't say whether it's true or not, but it's at least very interesting. He does postulate how these craft would be operated in the world of physics. But his expertise, he was a police officer for 20 years, so he does have a law enforcement background. So he would probably know how police departments handle missing persons cases, and being able to look at those reports, he would probably have some type of familiarity with them, because that was, the world that he was in for a while. And then after that, he's been spent a lot of time looking in the woods, looking for evidence of Bigfoot. So I guess it kind of puts the two together. He's dealt with the law enforcement side. Now he's looking at the cryptozoology side, looking for things in the woods that people claim they see, but we haven't verified yet.
And yeah, I will say that the vagueness is always what gets me, not to bring up religion, but to bring up religion. That is what gets me a lot of the time, especially when we're getting into heaven and hell. And some religions will get very specific, but others, they seem to bask in the vagueness.
Yeah, like Bob Lazar, if I recall, he said that the craft run on antimatter reaction with it's a synthetic element that we've only synthesized recently called muscovium. I think it's 115, and he says they use that to react with antimatter, and that is able to amplify gravity waves, and that's how these craft are able to travel, and that they use that gravity and that immense gravitational energy to warp space. So that's how they're able to travel faster than space. I mean, there have been physicists who've looked at it and said, "Oh, they don't really see how it works." But obviously, it would be much more advanced than anything we have ever seen, aside from, unless we have these craft. But as yet, that's all unverified. So we just don't know.
So if anyone has a question for James, feel free to tag me at Amy Newman. And speaking of that, another question from Stripper Liquor. Are these people missing, the ones who were taken by the dun 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 aliens, but were not returned because the probes went bad?
That could be. And if you're going about it from the aliens route, um, I mean, the whole alien abduction thing, if that's legitimate, if it's biological research, or God knows what they could be doing. Well, God doesn't know because he's not real, but it would probably be something way beyond our ability to understand. At least at this point, when they reveal themselves, then they can tell us all about it. But yeah, some of them come back, some of them don't. It's very interesting. We don't know. We just don't know. Uh,
Yep. And hey,
It,
I uh I think we should I have two sides to this. Even though I'm very skeptical that aliens have ever visited us, I think that that should not stop us from investigating and spending our time and money, which is sometimes controversial to some people, into seeking out life, and if not life, habitable planets to where life could spread out. I feel I get pushback sometimes even from that notion, though I know I had someone say, because I want to invest 1% of our GDP into NASA. Some people go, well, why 1%? Why not even get 20%? And I would
yeah, I
say,
remember
well,
that.
get me the 1%, and I'll take 20. I'll take whatever. But
If we could get to one,
yeah,
that would revolutionize our research, into aerospace. Absolutely. And Amy's on board with the Space Force.
you know, I'm gonna say something funny about Space Force. Looking back, I think people know so far that James is a Trump supporter, and let's just say I'm not. But of all the things I that he did, I think Space Force is going to be the only thing to me that's going to have a good impact. I think it's funny to me and Americans always have to declare war on something for us to actually get shit done. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Well, the interesting thing about the aliens and everything like on that end is, when we deal with all these other conspiracy theorists, they have to postulate, they have to imply, they have to suggest that there's a cover up, that the government has information that there's not being released. Like Ken Hovind has to come out and say that the 14-foot skeletons, they're all under wraps somewhere. It's all a big conspiracy. They don't want anybody to know because then they'll know God is real. We don't have to do that with the alien thing. Everybody admits, everybody knows, yes, absolutely, they have stuff that they're not telling people. There's absolutely a cover up. Now what's going on there, we obviously don't know because they haven't told us, but nobody denies that there is something there. And if it's nothing, if it's just a big pile of nothing, why are they being so tight-lipped about it?
Well, okay, I got something for you, James. From Crypto, he's saying Paul's is vague on purpose so he can pander to a number of different demographics: Bigfooters, UFO, aliens, ghosts, conspiracies, etc. I
Right.
mean, is he kind of doing the same thing that the religious people are doing? He's kind of being a little bit vague on purpose?
Well, I'm going to tell you that's possible, because yeah, the less information you give out, because it's a lot easier just to present data than to actually propose a solution that can be tested and checked and proven right or wrong. But I mean, it definitely is possible that, and I even told Amy this maybe about a week ago, that it's possible that this is just a money making thing for him, that he's found some unusual cases and he just put them in a book to try and sell books and make money. It is possible. It's not inconceivable, but I mean, I don't get that sense, but you never know, right?
Could be possible.
You
Yeah.
never know.
And I'm
It's
trying to look here. What we have?
either way. At the end of the day, I mean, like I said in the debate, these are real people with real families. It's a lot of the things we debate, like the moon landing, things like that. No, there's no lives at stake. Nobody's gonna die if people think that the moon landing was fake. It's pretty silly. It's goes against the weight of the evidence. But hey, if you want to think that, it's not gonna kill anybody. But this issue, we're actually dealing with people who are losing their lives here. So it's on another level.
Yeah, and that's we really should view conspiracy as kind of in a gradient. I think I've said this before. The damage in saying no conspiracy theories happens is when people actually conspire. Then it's mind blowing. The thing is that most people are conspiring for much simpler, baser needs. It's almost the grand conspiracies are, I guess, what I tend to make fun of, like the Jews controlling the world, because I have evidence in testimony against that. But then, you know, were the people at Enron conspiring? Well, yes, actually they were. So
Yeah, I mean, there are conspiracies. It just depends on the scope, the magnitude,
yeah,
and how many people would have to be involved, and what their leaks are, and I mean, there are leaks. It's just, do you believe them?
yeah, and I'll ask if Bob, if you're being genuine, I love it because I've been coming kind of obsessed with the flat Earth anyway. But I want to know why opposing governments are are holding this conspiracy. Like, why is it that it's
Is
not just the United States and NATO and all of our allies? It's also Russia, Iran, and North Korea.
is Bob flat Earth? Is he a flat earther?
Oh, I don't. I can't tell.
Oh,
Sometimes I can't tell.
was that the
Oh, is
conspiracy
he?
you were
Oh
referring
no,
to?
evidence for the moon. Yeah, well, if he doesn't, if well, I don't know. If you think we go to the moon, I guess you could still think it's round, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence is pretty strong that we did. But if you don't want to believe that, if you want to reject it, okay. It's just you're gonna have a hard time convincing too many people of it, and
Yes. Not only that, but you'll have a. I'm not saying you can't deconvince me, but as someone who has spent a very long time waiting for things to render, waiting for visual effects to render, I want to know how you got that done. I used to say like 40 years ago, but I think 20 years of my life happened very fast. So more like 60 years plus. I want to know
the
how they were
the moon
creating.
landing
Yeah, that's what
wasn't
that would
that
be
long
my
ago. Maybe 50 years ago. It was 69 was the first moon landing.
69. Well, I'm
Yeah,
trying to think because 20 years. Yeah, probably.
about 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, did we have the technology to fake it back then? Probably not. It's
Uh,
kind of it's kind of incredible in a way that we had the technology to do it, but and I, like I've said, that's always been like, just to play devil's advocate, would be the strongest argument in favor of the moon landing conspiracy. Would just be the argument from incredulity that we didn't have the technological capabilities to actually get that pulled off back then, because it does seem, or at least it sounds, pretty crazy when you think about it, that we had that technology back then in the 1960s, before we had cell phones and computers even.
yeah. I think it not impossible, but it
But
just goes
apparently we
into
did.
the realm of heart.
Apparently we
Uh,
did.
just reading chat. I think they're having fun. So I'm trying to think of the actual cases. Is there any actual specific case that stuck out in your mind?
Well, the ones I was talking about before, I mean, there was another one where it was a tour guide. I forget what park it is. I'd been going through all these and making notes on it, but I want to say it was the Colorado River, and it was a tour guide, and they were all walking in line and through a canyon, not the Grand Canyon, but through because it was a creek. Yeah, that's what it was. There was a creek, and then it went to this other reservoir, and they were going in the reservoir and swimming, and they were walking back the path of the creek, which is up, there's sheer walls. There's actually nowhere to go. And the tour guide, because he was one of the tour guides, was last in line there, and he never made it out of that canyon. Everyone got back like, "Where's he at?" And then they went back the whole way to the that reservoir, and there was nobody there. Yeah, he's never been found. I think that was in 2015. And yeah, what is there anything in that creek capable of consuming an entire human being? I doubt it. And there's really nowhere else for a human being to go. So go ahead and postulate what you think happened naturally, but I don't know. And this, like these, a lot of these places, they're so isolated that, you know, if you wanted to be a serial killer, it'd be like the last place you'd ever want to go really looking for anybody, because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's so hard to get to. And how do you stay out there without, you know, you'd almost have to live out there. You'd have to camp out there. It's just not conceivable. It's not. And same thing with like human trafficking. If you wanted to be a human trafficker, you could do that just fine in an urban area. You wouldn't have to go in the middle of nowhere with nobody out there. You can abduct people in the city. You know, you can't abduct people in the city if you're a strange kind of animal that, you know, has never been discovered, or if you are not from this planet, you really wouldn't be able to just go walking down the city streets and taking people at will. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
You,
sure for a lot of them. Like I said, I'm almost past the first, and I'm trying to, you can come up with, you can try and build almost like a detective what happened, but at a certain point, you know, it kind of goes cold, and that you see that in kind of all of them. You don't know
yeah,
where they go.
and like I said, I do think some of these cases are people using these parks to get away with murder. That a lot of times I do think these people are being killed elsewhere, and they're never actually in the park, and the people are just going out there and saying, "Hey, guy was with us. He left on his own this morning, go hiking," and then, you know, they bring the dogs out there, and the dogs can't find a scent. I'm sure the police are smart enough to at least consider that possibility that could happen, that these people might have had something to do with it. But it seems like they're getting away with it more often than they should.
Trying to see
And like when
any
people
good
talk about
questions.
the rates, like, because that's always been one thing that people talk about with these cases, like, oh well, you know, the rates of missing persons is not anything abnormal in these parts. It's about the same as anywhere else. But I mean, that's not very comforting to me, because I think the rates of people going missing are just way too high anyway. So that doesn't really comfort me, because I'm not at all happy with the number of people that are seem to be going missing every year. And even if you cut the raw data in half, it's still thousands of people. And where are those thousands of people going? Well, nobody really knows. Without a trace. Because I mean, even if you go somewhere else and you change your name, that still creates a paper trail that can be easily traced. You know, it's not like it was hundreds of years ago, where if you just wanted a fresh start, you could just go to a new town and just say your name is now Bob Smith. And okay, this guy's Bob Smith. Nobody knows anything about him. It's not really like that anymore. You have government IDs, social security cards. A lot of these are biometric. So these cases, when they come up, voluntary disappearance, and they get solved pretty quick. The police can usually able to track them down, and they'll call the person or go see the person. They'll find out where they're working, and a lot of times they'll say, "Yeah, just fuck my family. I don't want to talk to them anymore. So I'd rather they not know where I'm at." And they'll say, "Oh, okay," and they'll just tell the family, "Hey, voluntary disappearance. It's not people are allowed to go missing." But that, I don't think that's very convincing for most of these cases.
You know what is kind of funny, not funny, what it reminds me of and would make sense, although it's not true. Do you know what SCP Foundation is?
Um, I've heard of it. It sounds familiar, but I can't think of what it would be.
They're kind of like a horror community, but they're kind of like an open source horror community, and they are like the secret, almost FBI, CIA type of organization that deals with supernatural type of phenomena, and most of the supernatural phenomena wants to kill us. And so a lot of times people go disappearing, and what they do is they send out like um, agents to contain wherever the disappearance is or wherever the supernatural event is, and then they uh, basically put in ways that they can control it or try and get use out of it, and they kind of MIB themselves to the general public, so the general public can't go in there, or they'll fake as park rangers or stuff
These
like
these are
that.
real people. They go out and do this stuff.
No, no, no.
Oh,
SCP. I think I forget. I'm trying to remember. It's like secure contain protocol. But it's basically an entire wiki community where they create horror stories around this foundation
oh, so it's
agency.
just stories.
They're just stories, but there's a whole YouTube community of these stories, and I love them. And it would fit very easily just to say, well, I know where they're going in the SCP world. Something horrible like a monster's down there. They're hiding them from, or is eating them, and and so they're just covering that up, and that's why there's two park rangers and all that stuff. See, it makes sense, people. The SCP Foundation is real. We cracked it.
Well, yeah, that's why there's two police organizations for these parks. Very unusual. I didn't actually know that till maybe a month ago when I started doing some research on this, and I'm finding there's two duplicate agencies with exactly the same job. I can't figure out why they would do that, but yeah, only the government would come up with something like that.
Yes, there's two ways that could go. Either they are hiding something, or it's the simple joke. How redundant is government? Very, very redundant.
Well, yeah, it would be like who takes the lead on the investigation? Who do you send the FOIA request to if there's two different agencies? And I mean, like, if you, I'm sure if you could probably do your local police department a FOIA request and find out how many active missing persons cases they have right now. They'd probably be able to tell you without sending you like a $7,000 bill in the mail, which is what they tried to do with David Polides with one of these cases. They told him the case file and it would cost $7,500. That's a lot of money, and I can't imagine why it would take that much money to compile a case file together. But yeah,
Okay, I don't know. But I will say the skeptic's mantra is, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. But I'm just proposing questions. Oh, before what they were saying when it came to the alien thing. Now, I don't get too dogmatic about the the anecdotal stories about aliens, working with the government and things like that. But there is a story or a theory out there that at some point they met with some officials, I think in the Eisenhower administration, and that they agreed to an exchange for technology and for the aliens that we would allow them to take a certain number of people per year, and that was the deal we had to make. Again, not good evidence for it, but just something to consider.
I will say, I think I have talked about this with you a few times. I feel like with aliens, it's one of two ways. I mean, we go back to very simple game theory. It's either cooperative or zero sum. Either natural selection is going to take its course and they have better technology than us, or they have even technology, in which case humans will work alongside them. I feel like terrible, like I'm doing the math in my head, because if for whatever reason we discover aliens, oh, oh gosh, I feel like Avatar would happen.
I mean, I don't think they could have even technology because
The blue Avatar.
they would have had to
Sorry.
get here. So if they could get here, they obviously have technology that's way more advanced than what we have. So we would be kind of at their mercy. What exactly they would want from us, I can't even fathom. But
Though the best alternative is that they're sarcastic aliens, just like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, that would still be kind of fun. Like, sorry, we have to kill you, but your planet was here in front of like a parking violation, and we have to destroy it now. That'd be kind.
yeah, you never know. I mean, maybe they abducted the real Donald Trump and sent this one down just to troll people.
Let me tell you, it's my favorite joke of the past few years, and it's not mine, but I'm just waiting for the alternative timeline to end and for us to go back onto the normal timeline.
Yeah, but how would you know when it started or stopped, right?
I'm pretty. It was just by. I think it'll get boring again. Once it's really boring, we'll know we've hit there. But you're right. I don't know how we would know.
Because I mean, theoretically, the timeline could be changing all the time, and we would just never notice. It would, the all the molecules would rearrange themselves to the new reality.
Yeah, that's the
Which
thing.
side does the
There
moss
is no.
grow?
There's no up or down in space.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, there's no right, left, up, or down. It just goes out in all directions. That's why the guy said we're the center of the universe for the geocentrism debate.
Yes, that was a very interesting debate. I Once again, I'm using the word feel often in the past few sentences, but once again, I feel that is just such a self-centered position. I understand they don't feel that way, um, but just to feel that we are truly in the center of the universe, or to think that, I'll give him justification that he thought that we are the center of the universe, and I know they did think that for probably longer than humans have been around, but just like the flat Earth, just like anti-vaccination, once we start to learn things, that's where the burden of proof comes. You then
I
have to
yeah,
disprove it.
I think I mean from because he's a theist, so coming at it from that perspective, it's not all that crazy because if uh, if this is the center of God's focus, then yeah. Good night,
And
stripper
my
liquor. It's great to
stripper
see you
liquor.
again. Yeah, he goes on S.J. Thompson's channel.
Really? It's
Yeah,
so funny. She to me is such a sweetheart, and she's like, you can tell that she had like good intentions. In that, to her, this is like almost like she's selling cookies. She is trying to
right.
sell Christianity on the internet, but she's in this debate realm that she just seems so out of character for.
Yeah, because I said, imagine her having, and she reads stripper liquor's questions in his thing, just listening to her say stripper liquor.
That must be like, oh my god. I really do hope that Stupid Horror Energy joins my channel and I can just consistently read a question from Stupid Horror Energy, because that's my favorite line in all of James's debate.
What?
It's actually the combination, her name with the extremely smart questions that come after. Because if it was just stupid, it wouldn't make the joke as sweet. But the fact that it's like, so a question from Stupid Horror Energy. Are you trying to tell us that the second law of thermodynamics? It's like, okay,
Yeah, it's
okay.
a well thought out question. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
She was on Smokey's channel. Like it was about a
Oh,
month and a half
Titan's
ago.
here. Hey, Titan.
She's not a sweetheart. That's
Speaking
great.
of lovely names that I like to say out loud, a good happy hello to Titan your anus. Yes.
Absolutely.
Welcome everyone. I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
welcome all. We welcome all.
Stupid Horror Energy. Yeah, she was on Smokey's channel, and she's an atheist, but she was smoking this guy named Moshe on the Trinity because he's a theist but he's a non-Trinitarian. So she was just smoking this guy left and right with scripture. She's a very smart girl and very funny when she trolls. Remember, she was trolling in the Michael Shermer debate.
No, I don't. Please tell me more. She was trolling?
Yeah, she had her name in that debate was like Sarah Pease herself, and she kept uploading like gifs, risque gifs, until John Maddox was like,
Oh
"Are you
my.
stupid, Horror Energy?" And then she's like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Okay, that makes sense."
Uh-oh, we have a question or a statement. Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. James?
Your
The,
turn. Say at Titan Uranus. There
ah,
you go. You,
we like to please the community here at Amy
so
Newman Live. At Midnight Ranting, excuse me.
so go back and cut that audio clip, and you can add that to the intro. That Titan Uranus
The,
as you're doing your video editing and such for the channel.
exactly. And yeah, you want me to make a whole monologue of you just saying that? Tighten your. I
I
will.
mean, you could.
I will say some of the best things on YouTube are like the ones under 30 seconds. That's how you know a clip's going to be good, is when it's like 12 seconds long. You're like, okay, I'm in.
And it has like 20 million views.
Tell me more, tell me more. And
Yeah, I mean,
so,
yeah, we were just on 5 in the morning. We still had way more people than I thought we would at that time of the day. That was a successful Bible study this morning. I am so pumped about that.
yes, in fact, that's a nice segue advertisement from James. Thank you. That we had an awesome Skeptic Bible Study, episode 3, a whole lot of babble, in the middle of last night or the
Tipping
early morning, depending on
tipping
your
over a
viewpoint.
tower, the creator of
Yeah.
the universe getting triggered by a tall building.
Yes, not it wasn't a very long story. It was just kind of like the humans kind of had an Avengers Assemble moment. And this really, as James said, triggered Yahweh. And so he had to smash that tower down. And apparently that's how we no longer, that's why we have all different languages now. Yeah.
Makes
I don't
sense.
I don't exactly know how smacking a tower down even confuses people. Why couldn't you just smack each person individually? But once again, we're asking maybe a little too much from the omniscient, all
So I mean,
powerful creator of the universe.
Yahweh, he was just looking down on it, and the people were building a tower. He's like, "Why aren't you guys killing each other?" Uh, I mean, where's the killing? So he had to come down and fix that shit.
Also, Jamie, I think if I missed your comment, send it again. And if anyone has a comment, a question about anything that we're talking about, or a specific question for James himself, feel free to send it to Amy Newman.
So we'll probably do another Bible study later on this week because I know you are just
Yeah.
cracking to get through Genesis. I mean, we've met Abraham. We talked about 80-year-old women being barren. I mean, tough, hard-hitting theological issues.
Exactly. I don't know what the heck was the point of that story. But we had an entire, I would say, not awfully quoted passage about a woman being barren and a woman lying about. We had some real Game of Thrones action going on yesterday where they were lying. I guess it was opposite Game of Thrones. It was lying about his sister, but it was really his wife. And the Pharaoh was like, "I want to get all in on that," and then he's like, "Well, you can't," or I don't even know how they found out. I don't know if she was a bad liar. I don't think they really said, but they found out, and the Pharaoh was like, "What?" And they had a Star Wars moment.
Oh yeah, Luke and Leia. Yeah, I'm your. When Luke realizes he's been kissing his sister.
Exactly. And so I'm gonna send the StreamYard into chat and I'm gonna ask again for questions. But if not, I think we've
We'll wrap
covered.
up if
Yeah.
everybody's done. Yeah, we had a lot of begetting last night. Lots of begetting and begatting, and that was quite riveting, wouldn't you say?
Yes. In fact, I'm gonna start hearing that word in my sleep, I think.
Begatting.
Yes, everything was he begatted the him and he begatted her. Well, actually, I guess it was always begatting her if you think about it. But it was always
We
getting
got
old and giving babies.
we got unusual names for the guys. The daughters, I don't think they were ever named. No, the guys they would give very weird names to, but
Oh
the
wait,
girls no.
Jamie, did you? Oh yes, Jamie, if you said you want to come on for a
Yeah, come
Christian
on in.
Bible study, 100%. We were probably supposed to have Jim on, or if he had no, if he had known, no, if we had known, we'd probably would have ran it earlier, and then he would have joined us. And then, but yes, any theist of all stripes always welcome. And of course, atheists and skeptics, always welcome.
We have Jim. He's a Christian. We have was that KOC? He's a pagan. He comes on a lot.
Yes.
KOC champ.
It's always good to have him because I feel like I can feel the ping ponging. Sometimes he puts his theist hat on. Sometimes he's with us in his like anti-Christian hat. So it's a fun time.
But we were going to do it earlier, but we got busy. Amy had to rescue some cats yesterday, so we did it after all that was done. Uranium is taken from Uranus. It would have to be Urani.
Once again,
What do you
we're
think about
always
that, Amy?
trying to get to solutions here. So yeah,
Well, uh,
he solved a problem for us.
Urani. That's wow. That's deep, man. That's
I, we're trying to ask the deep questions here, and okay,
a hard hitting
so
theology. Yes.
so I guess with that, I'm gonna say missing 411. If James, if no one knew absolutely nothing about the topic, if they were just coming in right now and were like, what the hell is missing 411? What would be your Bitvite version of that?
Well, just another quick summary. It's a series of books and films by a man named David Paulides, who was a police officer for 20 years, looking into mysterious cases of people going missing, predominantly in national parks and forests, under unusual circumstances that don't seem to make sense when you look at it all. He's tracked about 1,600 cases. Some of these cases go back to the 1940s, some before that, but most of them, are more recently than that. And he looks through them, and they don't seem to have any plausible, rational explanation that neatly fits within our paradigm. And he doesn't really propose solutions to it beyond that, but it is fun to at least consider the possibilities. But it's also important to remember that these are real people, real lives, real families, and their families just want answers like we would if one of our loved ones were missing, had gone camping into one of these parks, and had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. So it's about people. It's a people problem. It's a people issue, and it's something all walks of life, all people, even vegans, are susceptible to this. So I think try to keep that in mind as we go over the topic. That it's interesting, but it also really hits home. So that
Oh,
yeah.
all right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, as always, for coming on, James. But thank
Oh,
you so
absolutely.
much for taking us through this.
And thank you
And
guys for coming in with to the chat, for watching the debate. I appreciate it. It was a good debate. T Jump is a very tough opponent, but I tried to at least hold my own with him, and yeah, it was fun.
yes, I think T Jump has a lot of love from this channel, but I think, yeah, I think you held your own, James. I think it was a really good debate.
Thanks, Amy. I
And
appreciate it, and thank you guys again. Have a great night, everybody.
yes, I wanted to just quickly thank
Oh yes,
to Tony, to Jimmy, to Titan Uranus, to Doorknob, to
Tripper
Robert,
Liquor.
to Tripper Liquor, to Aunt Jem. Trying to think if I'm missing anyone.
Love to
Hana Hana
Stupid
Ha,
Horror Energy, even though
Super
she's not
Horror
here.
Energy.
We love her.
Love to even to what was it, Bob that was coming on with us, and to I am your deviant, or I am your deviant. I'm so sorry, Ian Davenport. Once again, there is my brain.
Amy just outed herself once again.
Well, I mean, let me tell you something. Just as personal admission, I am very much a deviant. Um, and yeah, thank you, Blaster Master, for asking basically questions, and thank you everyone for hanging out with us. I'm tempted to even maybe do like either tonight, tomorrow, sometime a skeptic Bible study. So look out for that. And yeah, I guess have a good night, all. I
Have a good
love
night, guys. We will
you.
see you again shortly for a Bible study.
Yes.
Tell the
Yeah.
Christians, bring them
Yeah.
on.
Bring on the theist.
Tell